In Suralere, Lagos, where the streets buzz with danfo horns, akara sellers, and the endless chatter of restless youths, there stood an old two-story house on Oladeo Street. The house was painted a tired cream, its balcony rails eaten by rust, and the compound fence tattooed with old political posters and church crusade flyers that had long lost their colors to the rain. Everyone knew the house, everyone whispered about it. And everyone knew the man who lived inside it, Chief Adekona Adesokan. Chief had once been the pride of the street. In the 80s, his Peugeot 504 was the first car that glistened there. When NEPA plunged everyone into darkness, his generator roared confidently through the night. On Christmas mornings, his compound filled with children from the neighborhood, plates in hand, receiving rice, chicken, and bottles of Coke. He was the type of man who helped families pay rent when landlords threatened eviction, who contributed heavily to church harvest, and who sponsored 3 boys on the street to university. His voice was deep, his laughter contagious, and his agbadas flowed like water. But all of that was before. Now, in 2019, the house stood silent, its windows shuttered, its compound gate forever locked from within. The chief had not been seen outside in nearly 7 years. The beginning of the rumors. At first, neighbors said it was grief. His wife, Madame Foleshade, had died suddenly of stroke in 2012, collapsing in the sitting room after morning prayers. Chief had been shattered. He was a man who loved loudly, who paraded his wife as his crown. Her death left a hole in him that no condolence visit could patch. For months, he stopped attending church, stopped greeting neighbors, stopped appearing at the local landlord association meetings. Later, others whispered it was betrayal. His only son, Connor Jr., had been caught in the UK with drugs, sentenced to years in prison. Chief had sold land in Ibadan, mortgaged property, all to finance his son's education. Now that dream lay in ruins, and shame covered him like a second skin. Some others swore it was juju. That an old business rival, one Alhaji Musa from Mushin, had sworn to finish him. That the chief's sudden withdrawal from life was not grief or shame but a spiritual attack that chained his feet to the house. Whatever the truth was, one fact remained: Chief Adekona never stepped outside that house again. Life around the house. The house became something of an urban legend for children. Touch the gate and count to 10, and you'll hear his cough, they challenged one another. Some claimed to see his shadow pacing on the balcony at night. Others swore they heard his radio, permanently tuned to Yoruba news on Radio Lagos. A middle-aged woman, Mama Esther, who sold puff-puff across the road, said she often saw a house help going in and out, carrying foodstuff. But even the maid refused to talk much. "Boba dey fine," she would say flatly, eyes darting away. Nobody pushed her further. Lagos people respected secrets. Yet curiosity remained. In a city where everyone's life spilled into the street, arguments with spouses, generator fuel shortages, quarrels over NEPA bills, the silence of that house screamed louder than any noise. The visit. It was in 2020, during the heat of the COVID lockdown, that Pastor Emmanuel of Christ Victory Chapel decided enough was enough. He had been a boy when Chief once sponsored him through seminary. He remembered the man's booming laughter, the way he used to arrive at church harvest with live rams and bags of rice. A pillar of the house of God cannot be abandoned, he told his congregation one Sunday. We must bring him back into the fold. With 2 elders, he marched to the gate. They knocked and knocked, their voices carrying, "Daddy Boba Adesokan. We are here to pray with you, oh." After a long silence, the gate creaked. The house help peeked out, anxious. "Daddy is not seeing anybody," she muttered. But Pastor Emmanuel was stubborn. He pushed, insisting, and finally, after what felt like hours, the maid relented and allowed them into the compound. The men found Chief seated in a cane chair in the parlor, surrounded by old photo frames and dusty trophies. He was thinner, his agbada hanging like a curtain on his frame, but his eyes were still sharp. He greeted them politely but distantly. "Daddy, we have come to pray," Pastor Emmanuel said, kneeling. Chief raised a hand. "Prayer is good. But I have prayed my own. Leave me." "But sir." He slammed his walking stick on the floor. "Leave me. The men retreated. Outside, they shook their heads. "Something is wrong," one elder whispered. "This is not the chief we knew." Word spread across the street. Yes, Chief was alive. But clearly, he was not the same. The street moves on. Lagos is a city that does not wait for anyone. While Chief remained in his self-imposed prison, Olodio Street changed. New tenants moved into houses. The once bumpy road got partially tarred by the local government. Danfo drivers discovered it as a shortcut. Noise increased, rent soared, landlords painted their houses new colors. A nightclub opened 3 streets away, its base shaking windows deep into the night. Boys who once collected Christmas rice from Chief now stood on corners smoking loud, pressing iPhones, running hustles nobody openly spoke of. Girls wore wigs and eyelashes long enough to fan mosquitoes away. Life marched on, loud and relentless. Only the Chief's house remained the same: aged paint, locked gate, silence. The day the maid stopped coming. In 2022, neighbors noticed the maid no longer came regularly. Some days, no one entered at all. "How is he eating?" people whispered. Others swore they saw Okada riders deliver black nylon bags through the gate. Some claimed a young man, perhaps a relative, now visited at odd hours. One day, Mama Esther, crossing the street, gathered courage and called out, "Boba Adesokon." "Boba. How are you?" From behind the window curtain, the faintest cough answered. "Nothing more." The night of rain. It was July, the rainy season. The type of Lagos rain that pounds with thunder like Yoruba talking drums. That night, power had gone. Generators hummed, but the Chief's house was dark. Around midnight, a scream pierced the storm. Neighbors rushed out, some holding torchlights, others pressing umbrellas. It was the new tenant from the next compound, shouting, "See! The Chief's house, fire!" Smoke called from the back kitchen window. People banged the gate, shouting, "Boba! Boba! Open!" No answer. Finally, young boys scaled the fence, broke into the compound, and forced the back door. Inside, they found the kitchen fire had been from a forgotten kerosene stove, already dying on its own. But the parlor, there he was. Chief, sitting still in his cane chair, eyes open, unmoving. Dead. The aftermath. It was chaos. Some women wailed, others shook their heads knowingly. "We said it. We said he had been long gone. It is only now his body has given up." Police came, then ambulance. Rumors spread faster than the rainwater running through the gutters. Some said he had died days earlier and only the fire forced discovery. Others said he chose the night of heavy rain, so his spirit could slip quietly into the world of ancestors unnoticed. Family members arrived from Ibadan. A distant cousin claimed the house. Another relative fought him. Lawyers began circling. Lagos is like that, a man's death is sometimes just the beginning of another battle. The street children dared each other to peep into the compound. "He never came out of that house again," they whispered. "Only his body did." The legend grows. Years later, Olodio Street would still talk about Chief Adekono. The puff-puff seller would tell new tenants, "That house. Huh. Let me gist you." Children would stop by the gate and dare each other to touch it. The house itself fell into neglect. Grass overgrew the compound. Windows broke. Some nights, people swore they still heard his radio playing Yoruba news. Others swore they saw a figure at the balcony. In Lagos, a city that swallows stories daily, some tales refused to die. And so the legend was sealed: Chief Adekono Adesokon entered that house and never came out again.